I let the trio enjoy their loot, and looked back at Aranya and the others. They're still waiting, with Yvonne giving a bit of a play-by-play of the shifting hierarchy among the scythemaws. Most seem to be more or less settled into their spots, but there's one that seems a prime candidate for them to draw out. It's a bit skinnier than the others around, but a whole lot meaner. I'd probably try for one of the others, but from how Yvonne talks about that one's position, it's going to be their best bet. A larger one has been wandering around, and Yvonne thinks it's waiting for someone to make better progress on a nest before simply muscling them out. It'll probably get a few cuts from the fight, but there's little doubt it'll be able to oust the smaller one, and it seems to be the best one for it to go after, too. The others are big enough that they might be able to break something, so the skinnier one would be the clear choice. It's taken a while, though. Long enough for my attention to wander back to my spiderkin and the new enclave. I'm kind of surprised the scythemaws are mostly treating the cave like the enclave isn't even there, considering how much they seem to hate spiders. In fact, the first couple of days they were in there, they were always stomping around, growling and generally trying to get the spiderkin to come down and fight. The spiderkin, of course, had no intention of going down there, at least as long as they finish up relatively quickly. The cave lobster ponds are safe, but they don't know how long the things will live without any help from the village. The Wranglers are fully confident that 2 weeks will be no problem, and are pretty sure they should be fine for a month or so. After that, opinions start differing, but they're happy to leave the concern mostly for the future. The male moors have started showing up and strutting their stuff for the ladies, but no business has been conducted just yet. If they're happy to lay fairly quickly and leave, the enclave can easily just wait. If they stick around to try to protect the eggs, we might have a problem. It's a pretty outside chance, though, so they're content to wait. While it's possible the mother scythemaws will starve themselves protecting their eggs, Yvonne gives it pretty long odds. And speaking of my favourite burb, sorry Poe, she speaks up from Violet's doors, where she and Timo are keeping a careful watch. The big one's back. I think it's time. With the males mingling now, she needs a nest if she wants a mate. Everyone remember their parts? She asks, and everyone nods their heads. Then get ready to open the doors all the way. I watch through Timo as the scythemaw swaggers through the area outside. She sniffs at a few nests, but the ones there growl and convince her it'll be too much hassle. She could probably take most of the scythemaws in the area, but they might get in some good licks. Yvonne calling that she bullied the smaller one is right on the money, and she puffs herself up larger as she comes closer to the nest of the smaller one. The outsider growls as she approaches, and the smaller roars, leaving the large one unimpressed. She roars again as the other steps her foot into her area, but doesn't yet attack. She knows this isn't a fight she can win, but she also doesn't want to give up her hard work. A second leg intrudes on her domain, and it's time to put up or shut up. She dashes forward, mandibles wide open, and her foe meets her. They lock more, so it becomes a lot like a sumo match. First pushed out loses. Of course, with the difference in size, the smaller one never stood a chance. If she managed to avoid locking mandibles together, she might have been able to use her speed, but she didn't, and is pushed out without too much fuss. She hisses and roars at the usurper, but the new tenant simply snaps her mandibles to the loser, showing she's more than willing to defend her new home. Meanwhile, at the doors, Yvonne gets them open, and Ilara hurls a stone at it from across the cave. Everyone except Ragnar hides, and the grinning dwarf wraps his hammer on his shield, taunting the angry tunnel horror. Where is the insulting look, irritating sound, or the seemingly empty room behind him? It doesn't matter. She charges. Ragnar laughs and runs back inside, taking up position behind a pack of puffballs. As the angry creature rushes in, Yvonne and Aranya work to get the doors closed as quickly as possible. Ilara prepares a nerve spell as Ragnar stares down the charging monster. It doesn't seem to even notice the puffballs popping as it rushes through, though I can see a slowed effect pop up over the scythemaw. "Come on, you wee beastie! I pull worse things than you out of me ale!" yells Ragnar, as he plants his feet and blocks the scythes, one on his shield, the other with his hammer. Ilara releases her spell, rooting Ragnar to the spot, and helping him deal with all that momentum, while at the same time destabilizing the ground the boar stands on. It roars in anger, and the dwarf responds with a laugh and a kick to the snout, causing it to rear back. "Oh, it sure be a grand tale to tell," he shouts, before getting his shield up just in time to block a swipe from the tail. Ilara releases another spell, causing the floor under the boar to turn to sand for a moment, his feet sinking in. Then it hardens, leaving the monster restrained for a few moments. That gives Yvonne and Aranya the time to finish closing the doors, and can now join the fray. "Thedium's temper!" shouts Aranya, as a soft orange glow surrounds Ragnar's armor, shield and hammer. Barrage! Yells Yvonne, as she looses a handful of arrows at once. They don't do much damage, but they do draw the boar's attention for a moment, letting Ragnar step in and wallop it with his hammer. High's tough. Need to hit it in the eyes or mouth, yells Yvonne, more to let the others know she needs to be at the front. Aranya doesn't have too much in the way of offense, even with the sword at her hip, and Alara's earth magic should be able to do a lot of damage if she actually decides to switch from hindering to damage. The maw, though, isn't just going to take this lying down. With a roar, it frees its legs and swipes the debris at the ones at range. Ragnar whacks one of his mandibles from the opening, though, and I get the feeling he has the maw's full attention now. That's right, beastie! Keep your eyes on Ragnar! The maw starts to realise it's in trouble, so attempts to deal with the small bearded menace. It moves its head to swipe at him, getting Ragnar to raise his shield before dipping low and cutting into the earth like it's butter. With a flick, Ragnar is sent into the air with a curse before being snatched into the wicked mandibles. True shot! Shouts Yvonne over the sound of straying metal, and the maw releases Ragnar with a roar as the arrow finds one of his eyes. He lands in a heap but staggers to his feet with a manic grin. His chest piece has matching dents on the front and back now, though the orange glow has vanished. He coughs up a bit of blood, which only seems to make him grin wider. Weaver's Tangle! Shouts Aranya, as she finishes another spell, this time doing something to the scythemaw. The others seem to take it as a signal and prepare attacks. Hold the line! Bellows Ragnar, red spittle flying as he stares down the enraged scythemaw. True shot! Follows Yvonne, her arrow glowing slightly as she waits for the perfect moment to let it fly. Stalactite call! Finishes Alara, putting a last spear of rock from the ceiling, directly overhead with the scythemaw. The monster charges Ragnar, ready to meet and overcome his challenge or die trying, before a twist of fate seals his doom. Bold gambit! Shout all four, their efforts combining. The orange glow nudges its leading foot just a little before winking out, causing it to fall into the gap left from when the maw sent Ragnar into the air. It stumbles with a surprised grunt, and Yvonne releases her arrow into its throat. The beast rears back in pain, before the plummeting stalactite catches it right at the base of the skull, and drives it to the floor with an echoing boom. The party watches for a few moments to make sure the maw is dead, but the body doesn't even twitch. Nobody wants to be the first to declare victory, but Ragnar soon grunts, and takes a rough seat on the floor. Ugh, I'm gonna feel this tomorrow, he groans, tracing the long dent on his chest armor. That seems to pop the tension, and Alara walks over to heal him with a smile and a shake of her head. I was worried when that thing grabbed you, Ragnar. Aye! How do you ken I felt? He jokes, before looking over at Aranya. What's that prairie cast? I can feel it fighting that bite. Aranya looks a bit embarrassed before she answers. It's inspired by the Ratkin, actually. They remember working in the forges when they were still denizens, smelting ore and making crude gear. They like to ask to be tempered to never shatter, or to bend under great force. A bent sword can be straightened or forged much easier than a broken one. Weaver's Tangle is inspired by the Spiderkin, then? Asks Alara, and my High Priestess nods. They like to focus on his fate aspect, saying he weaves small starts into glorious finales. I'd certainly call that a pretty glorious finale, says Yvonne, as she examines the dead scythemaw, and the others all nod. Ragnar stands, seeming to be feeling much better after being healed, but his face falls as he looks at the dead beast. How are we going to get it out of here?